Grab your print or digital copy of Go Queen magazine today. Stay inspired by the incredible stories and features inside. Visit our website to grab your copy now. There has never been anyone that has gone out of their way to hurt me or harm me that had a happy ending, that didn't receive their karma. So this is just for people who may have gone through the humiliation rituals, or who may have ever been shoved out or casted aside in any situation, whether it's your job, your family. Some of us who unfortunately have the displeasure of being with the narcissist, we know how that goes with the smear campaigns and all the other BS that they do to hurt you. But if you've ever been in any situation, or even if it's a friend that's betrayed you, if you've ever been in any situation where someone has truly gone out their way to hurt you, just, oh my God, hold your head high. Just rest assured they're not sleeping easy at night. You can't harm a person and think that you're going to fare well afterwards. And if you really think about it, if someone really sat there and took time to deliberately go out of their way to hurt you or to harm you, do you think they're honestly sleeping well at night? That's an unhappy, miserable person. Because you have to be truly miserable and unhappy to go out of your way to hurt, harm, humiliate, or belittle somebody. Or especially for the people that's gone out their ways to plot and plan and do some dark signature-ish to hurt somebody. Do you honestly think that person sleeps well? You have to be a miserable person to go out of your way to hurt somebody. It's at the point where it's literally laughable. So have you ever been on the receiving end of that? Of those people that may be that family member that just does everything they can to push your buttons, or just somebody that just really goes out of their way to hurt, harm, or humiliate you? This is your sign, or this is your video to hold your head high. And you really sometimes have to think on another person's perspective. And I know that's scary, because who wants to go down to their level? But you got to be miserable to go out your way to hurt somebody like that. So again, hold your head high, because fly above that mess. People that go out their way to hurt somebody, they're literally on the boomerang effect. Everything that they send out to you is going to come back to them. So just remember that when they go low, you kneel. Get down on your knees and pray about it, and pray God that he protects you and covers you. And I promise you, you're going to come out on top. But you're going to look back one day, or you might hear some stuff through the grapevine or something on that person that went out their way to harm you back in the day. And you're going to find out they're not doing that great. Things aren't going too well for them. That stuff backfired on them. So it's all good. Just kind of everything all joy. And again, too, if they have to go out their way to do a smear campaign against you, or a plot and plan, or do that family humiliation, or the exes, or the friends that betrayed you, or that job, you got to have something special inside of you, because you stirred their spirit. You triggered them, so they have to really go super hard to hurt you. So just again, hold your head high. It's all good. That means you got it. There's something about you. You got something really special that really, really, really sparks somebody to go so far to try and belittle you, or diminish you, or humiliate you. So you do have something really special. So just hold on to that light, and just remember, what they do to you is always going to come back to them. Welcome back to the Q Chat, the podcast where queens come to speak boldly, love loudly, and reign unapologetically. I'm your host, Shronda Armstrong. Today's episode isn't just a discussion, it's a heart-centered exchange with someone who has turned survival into power and purpose. Kecia J is a dynamic voice, an HIV/AIDS advocate, and a 2-time cancer survivor. But beyond the titles, she's a woman who has removed the Superwoman cape and chosen softness, healing, and truth. Together, we'll explore what it means to release perfection, reclaim your story, and remember that you are not your trauma. So whether you're pushing through your own healing or learning to sit within your own emotions, this conversation will remind you your softness is your strength and your story is sacred.
She's a queen about her business, working hard on a mission. Head high, purpose driven, crown on, never tilted. Go queen. She's a queen about her business, working hard on a mission. Head high, purpose driven, crown on, never tilted. Go queen, go queen, go queen.
So thank you guys for joining another episode of the Q Chat. Today, my guest is a very special person. She's been on the platform several times. She's also graced the cover of our magazine as well. That is Miss Kecia J. She's amazing. She is a survivor. She's an advocate. And we're going to just have a great conversation. Of course, she wrote this excellent book, Cancer Could Never. So we're just going to have a great conversation. Today, we want to touch on just different things. She's also a trauma survivor like myself. So, we're going to touch on we're not our trauma, and we also don't have to hold the weight of being the superwoman. We're going to take those capes off and just explore on how we can heal, but we don't have to always be strong in our healing journey. So, we're going to get started with Miss Kecia J. How are you doing today?
I am doing amazing. You know, whenever you reach out to me, I'm like, whatever you need me to do, I'm gonna do it.
That is true. You're not lying. It's like, that is true. You just one inbox, a text away, an email. That's a 100% true. So that's not. We're not doing this for the cameras. That is true. Like you are
Not at
always
all.
there
Not at
when
all.
I
I
reach
love the
out.
brand and I love what you stand for. So anytime I see somebody amazing doing their thing and still being able to be quote unquote superwoman, I'm so in 1,000% of support of that.
And I feel the same way about you. And actually, your cover, I don't know if I should say this, is actually one of my favorites because it just means so much to me. Like, I still like refer to it a lot, even in
Yeah.
branding. Like, it's just one of my favorite covers. And it just meant so much to me. And it's funny, like, even on that cover, like, just some of the topics and that was like 2 years ago, but it's still relevant and it's still
Yeah.
like one of my
Still.
absolute favorites. I just recently got printing of all the covers and like these huge posters. And
Wow.
it's
Yeah.
just such a blessing to that you were there from the beginning and where we're at now. So you're like a special person for this platform and everything. But I definitely want to get started.
Thanks.
I don't even know where to start in a sense because every time I talk to you, I'm always in awe of all the different things that you have going on and then all the things that you
Yeah.
continue to overcome all the time. And then through the things you overcome, your light never changes. It's always the same.
No, it can't. One of the DJs actually here while I'm here in Houston visiting, I started my advocacy here in Houston, and one of the DJs that I first reached out to tell my story, JJ, we went out to lunch probably like 2 years ago, and she was like, "Where do you get your tenacity from? Like, how do you keep going?" And I couldn't even really answer the question. And to me, that's been a problem for me, right? Which is kind of whenever I feel like I can't answer that question, that means I have to take a break and I need to go on a spiritual journey and I need to get closer to God because I should be able to answer that question on where I get my tenacity from after all these years. And that's a part of the healing journey that we're here to talk about.
Yeah. But you know what? I think it's also part of the imposter syndrome that comes
Yeah.
when you do have a
Mhm.
lot of weight. Like they said, oil is not cheap, oil is heavy.
Yeah.
So when some of us are assigned these different battles and assigned these different platforms and assigned these different testimonies, it's definitely not easy. It looks it looks somewhat easy to people if they go by the highlight reel, which I like to call social media. If they see that post of somebody saying, "Oh, I overcame this," or they see that celebration, but they don't see where you were before the celebration came. They don't see where you were before the book, before the podcast, before the magazine, before the speaking engagement. They don't see that pain, that part,
They
or they
don't.
don't see what happens once you stop recording, once you put that book away, they don't see that part. So you're holding on to that. Then you have people revering what you've gone through, and it's like
Time.
you don't know
The
how
time.
to accept it sometimes. So
Yeah. That even though even and I tell people I just got back from Africa. And so people see the pictures, but they have no idea that the trip to Africa was in preparation for almost 2 years. And I could not, my health kept stopping me from going. Like I kept getting sick. Then my daughter got sick. Then it was something else. And then it was my body. Then I tested positive for tuberculosis, and then it was a false positive. It was so many things that happened in between the little pictures that y'all saw that you have no idea. That was a God trip. I'm gonna tell you, because that trip got canceled so many times due to I ended up getting my cancer came back last year. So then the trip just went off the table. So it was just so many things that I had to pick myself back up again and be like, you know what? I'm still gonna do what it is that I'm assigned to do. I'm still gonna navigate my plan the way that I'm supposed to, and that's tough to do, And it takes for you to shut everybody out. It takes for you to do that. I think you and I had a conversation in the DM. You posted something. Changing your number is self care. And if anybody knows me, I will change a number. I don't care. I don't care. If you got my new number, that means you coming with me. If you don't have it, it's not meant for you to come. Right? And so when you put that, I said, oh my goodness, that's healing. And people used to always be like, well, you can't change your number. Says who? Why can't I change my number? That is healing. And I think that's kind of what has helped me get through things that other people or society feels like I should not have gone through. And it's because I understand that I know how to shut everything out and go to the root of issues so I can rebuild, restore, revitalize, whatever you want to call it. I know that's what it takes to be able to get to the next level.
You're right. And we definitely had that conversation recently. And because last year, as I shared with you, and this is something that I didn't broadcast because I'm just past, I know like people think, I've heard people say that, oh, when you're trying to build a platform, you should share all your journey, you should share everything. And I'm like, I got to have something for me.
Got
If
it.
you look at my
Yeah.
social media now, I don't post pictures of my children anymore. I just feel like I have to have something for me.
Agreed.
Last year, last year was an interesting year, let me put it that way. I am vocal to a degree about some of the family estrangement I deal with some of the dysfunction. I'm breaking some personal generational curses, but
Sure.
several people in my family had passed in like a very short amount of time. We're talking within weeks. So that was a lot. Just, I don't deal with death well. And then at that same time, I've always known I've had a cyst in my breast since my very first mammogram. And for anybody that's gotten that call back after the mammogram, you like, what you said? I got to come back for what? So
Mm,
that had been being monitored for quite some time, but I would just have this constant pain, long story short. So I had switched doctors, and I'm thinking in my mind, oh, well, can't y'all just take this out? I'm thinking it's like, it's nothing. Oh, y'all can just take it out, right? And I can just move on my life, right? So I go get everything I get done, and I don't just get a mammogram. I got to get an ultrasound, all that stuff. This has just always been typical life for me, with this issue with my breast. So they're like, oh, well, we want to go ahead with the biopsy. I don't know why in my mind I'm thinking biopsy. Like, I don't know. Like, it's
right.
different
Like, why I gotta get
hearing
all that?
biopsy. So
Mm-hmm.
they did the biopsy, and I just had I can't describe how I felt. And by the time I got the phone call saying that the biopsy was fine, I literally didn't want to hear nothing else the woman had to say on the line. I just needed to mentally shut down because even the thing that the biopsy just made me like, it was different because for anybody that's experienced is when they tell you they're scheduling a biopsy, they also tell you, oh, you got to pick a surgeon. They giving you all these cancer booklets. And I'm like, huh? So like, it was just like, what is going on? So it was just a lot for me mentally, especially being a single mother to three kids. And I changed my number. I'm not gonna lie. I was just like, I need it mentally just to be away. I'm
Yeah.
still on this mental vacation. Like I can't even bring myself to
Yeah.
I needed to be away, and I don't think people understand that. And mind you, it wasn't just the biopsy. I still deal with anemia. I had my hysterectomy a year before. I still have issues with my incision. My stomach was cut from my belly button down to my tuta. You know, it's like I got this
Wow.
huge
Wow.
incision. I mean, I just was like, I really need a break. I don't need people texting me in the morning about a magazine cover. I just needed a
That's
mental
it.
break. And as I said, I'm
That's
still on
it.
that mental vacation. I'm on a personal spiritual journey. And I know people probably get sick of hearing, oh Lord, here go another person sounding real Super Soul Sunday-ish talking about healing. But that's just where
But
I am right
honestly,
now.
that's the real healing, right? So we have a lot of I call them TikTok healers, social media healers. The real healing is from behind the camera. And that's what people don't understand. And that's wonderful that you want to take people on journeys and show them what to do if you want to heal, but yet you have not yet mastered what to do to heal, right? So, and when you really do that true, genuine healing, you don't want to show the world because it's a personal space. It's a personal moment that you have with God, not me, you, God, and them. That's not how it goes. And so that's why I had to learn that everything is not for everybody. Don't get me wrong, I'm here to empower people and I'm here to be the empower maven. But in order for me to do that for you, my cup has to be filled over. And if it's not, the buck stops. That's just where it is. And I had a problem saying no. I had a problem saying I don't have the capacity because I felt like that meant that I can't do or that I'm a failure. And that was neither of the two. It just meant Kecia needs to be restored and needs to be refilled right now. And so once I learned to do that via cancer forced me to do that. I realized that the spiritual journey and when you connect with God the way you're supposed to, that's the real healing. It really is. That
You just said a
genuinely
word.
is the real healing.
And that's the thing. When you're faced with it's just when you're faced with anything pertaining to cancer or just something that reminds you
Yeah.
that we know it's borrowed time. We know this. We know there's a set timeline. We don't know the end date. That's something that the power upstairs knows that he hasn't shared with us. But when little things happen in your life, whether it's dealing with a bunch of deaths in your family, whether it's having that doctor tell you, oh, well, we need to test this or something, it puts you just in a different mind frame. And it's something, like you said, that you cannot explain to anybody. It's something that is very personal. And you're right about that spiritual connection. Once you get another reminder, just something just blaring in your face that this time is limited or it may be shorter than what you anticipated, it's something you can't go back. You cannot go back. It's just something that just doesn't change. You cannot go back. And again, like you said, now we do live in that social media age, but same thing. I was a former people pleaser, even in my business and my branding. I just I extended myself too much, and
Yes.
especially it's very slippery when it's something with women, because I think as women, we're also gaslit that we have to be there for everybody. And women will meet somebody, we've known them for a few moments. They start referring to each other as BFFs. Friend is something that means a lot to me. I don't toss that
Very.
around
Yep.
lightly either. You know, so again, it's just kind of hard to even start articulating in a sense. 'Cause like you said, it's something just straight up between you and God. And it's like, I can't bring a follower with me. I
Yeah.
can't bring an acquaintance
Yeah.
with me on this situation. I can't bring somebody who only reaches out to me when they need information. I can't bring these individuals. I can't even bring people who, and it's not even a personal thing. It's not even like, oh, I don't care for this person. It's just that once you get just something that reminds you like, wait a minute, I could be out of here sooner than I anticipated, or sooner than I need to be out of here for my children. You cannot mentally go back to who you were before then. And again, it's not even anything to explain to everybody. And I think God does give some of us healing qualities, qualities where
Yes.
people do gravitate towards you. That's even more reasons why you have to even be more
In
just
tune.
careful,
Yes,
cautious.
you
You
do.
have to, because you got to protect that oil. And like you said, in order to empower, I have to be empowered. And sometimes that's isolation.
Yes, very, very much so. I'm very much, um, I love the world. I love everybody. No matter what background you come from, I love you. Yes, yes, yes. And, until, God was like, girl, no, no, no. Like, you cannot be around everybody and their stuff, because sometimes their stuff then becomes your stuff. And so now you're dealing with your stuff, their stuff, they stuff, his stuff. And it was becoming too much for me. To where I had to understand the power of isolation and understanding that being alone is a blessing, lonely is a spirit, right? I feel like for me, being lonely is when you can make a poor decision, pick the wrong partner because you're acting out of being lonely versus doing the work to learn about the person or about the circumstance or whatever it is that you're navigating. Being alone can be a blessing because it allows you to learn about yourself. It allows you to dig deeper and get to the roots of things that you probably would have never had you been in a crowded place or been with somebody else. So I had to learn the blessing in being alone, and me being alone showed me how codependent I was on certain situationships, a marriage, like it showed me a lot about myself. Um, the deeper I dug and started digging up those roots. So all of that is healing. And the thing is, when you really, I'm telling you, and this is just a nugget for people who really think, I got a whole bunch of friends, hundreds of friends. You ain't did your root work. Because the more root work you do, the smaller that circle becomes. And I don't care who you think you are with millions of friends. It don't work like that. When you really do the work, okay? I'm just saying. And if I'm wrong, hey, everybody has their own experience. But the tallies that I've taken, anybody who really doing that work, and Shronda, you let me know when you really do that work. That circle does not get bigger; it gets smaller and becomes a dot.
Listen, tell me, it becomes that little flea size dot. And you're right. When you said roots, come on. Like you said, when you start pulling those roots, when you really truly on healing, and healing, it just becomes something that people just toss around. Oh, people need to heal. No, what healing are you doing? Because number one, if you're really on a healing journey, you don't need those subliminal notes and posts. You know how many people I have muted on IG because I can't tolerate like the subliminal passive aggressiveness. Like, this is not healing. And you have to like do these different things. And also, when you said pulling those roots, you start to realize this parts of ourselves, because none of us are perfect. Especially we've dealt with situationships. I know I have, like you said. So we start realizing those broken parts of us and the things we were doing to fill in those cracks, the situationships, the codependency, the need for validation, the friendships that really didn't have any type of glue to them. Some, just, oh my God, just the dysfunction that a lot of us thought was normal, to fill in those gaps and cracks in that broken vessel. Come on. And like you said, once you start shaking that root and you start healing, your circle does get very smaller. I always question people that's like they said, a friend to everyone is a friend to no one. I mean, you're friends with everybody. Like, how is that possible? Like, you don't object to anything. Like, there's not some spirits
Yeah.
that you can't be around. I truly, it's not just you. I can't comprehend that. Like like you're spiritually promiscuous. Just like a person can be
Right.
sexually promiscuous, you're spiritually promiscuous because you link up
Yes.
with everybody. Everybody your friend. You let everybody touch you. I can't do it. Like I really can't. And once my eyes open wider, I can't relate to everything. I can't attach myself to everything worldly. It doesn't. I'm
Yeah.
allergic. That's when you are
And
truly
that's what
healing.
once you really do the work, you do become allergic. I'm telling you because you become more sensitive to the fake. I've always been a girl who can sense the foolery and the fakery, And I put my church finger up and I exit stage left. I don't have to cause no scene and be like, yeah, girl, I don't like you. I just be like, okay, girl, this is not for me. And I just exit stage left because once it just doesn't, my spirit is just don't sit with it. I can't kick it. I can't even fake like I'm cool with you. I can't. So I would rather just separate myself, and wish you the best from afar. But that also came with work because normally I all of the red flags could just tap dance in front of me, as a friend, lover, partner, and I'll just be like, "Oh, it's a red flag. It's all good. I love them just how they are, just how you is." And then as soon as how that person is affects me, then I'm looking like, "Well, where did I go wrong?" Not understanding that they showed me who they were in the beginning. So at that point, then you have to stop and do the self work and say, why is it that I keep ignoring red flags, yield signs? Why is it that I keep doing that? What trauma or generational trauma is within me that I keep allowing this behavior or these scenarios to keep happening? You know, and sometimes people don't even want to step in that accountability because then it's almost like you look at it as a failure, and it's not. It's a lesson. Lessons make you more powerful. Lessons make you greater. And I think that's really what healing is about, because healing is ugly. Healing is stank. Healing is stupid. Healing doesn't look good some days. Healing will have you in the corner sliding down the wall crying. Like healing for real has you on that level.
You ain't lying. Healing is not attractive. Healing is not that
No.
something that's gonna walk by you and catch your attention. It's so unattractive. It's ugly. It's disgusting. Healing hurts. It's painful. Healing is not this, sugar coated thing that people toss around, when they want to like get upset with somebody that wouldn't allow them to cross their
Yeah,
boundaries.
Angel. Not to
Because
cut you
people
off, but
love to
I gotta say
weaponize
this.
healing.
Yes, and not to cut you off, I just gotta say, healing is not a 2 day healing retreat in Tulum, Mexico. That is not healing, and that is not gonna save the day. Okay, those are great excursions, but that is not healing. Okay, shout out to those having those retreats. I'm quite sure they're amazing, but there's deeper work that has to be done, and it does not cost a dime. Okay,
Right. You're
you
right.
know,
Healing is a
it'll just
process.
cost you your old life. That's it. That's what it'll cost you. Your old life and who you used to be.
It's going to cost you your old life. It's going to cost you your old friends. It will cost you relationships, even with your own family,
Yeah.
because you'll start looking at things that you were told is normal or things that you were forced to suck it up or let it go. Like dysfunctional families, just that happened a long time ago. Just leave it alone. Or just some of the friendships that you have that you realize are like, what type of bond do I have with this person? Is this a trauma bond or a gossip bond? Like, is this somebody I really truly want to call? when I'm going through something or it's really going to be there, like you lose everything. It costs you everything because everything that you thought was okay, you start to realize, like, wait a minute, I got to let some things go. And you're like, wait, this is what I got to do in order to move forward. I have to let this go. It costs you
Yes.
everything.
Yes.
And some people don't comprehend that, but it costs you everything. It's just, I can't even stress it enough. It will
Yeah.
cost you everything. If you're really truly trying to heal, it's going to cost you so many things. It's going to make you look back at things that you did like, wow, who was I? It's gonna cause who you
Yeah.
thought you were, because you're gonna
Yeah.
realize I'm not that person anymore. So that's when all the other people that were used to that crack person or the person that had all these different gaps that you were filling in with insecurity and things like that or anxiety. Now you're stepping away from that, and they're like, wait a minute, this not that same little pushover, or this is not the same person that accepted
Mhm.
everything, or just in general, like you don't find
Yep.
these things interesting or funny anymore. What happened to you? It costs you everything.
Yeah. And it does, but you have to know that that other side, that the reward from that is so much greater. The freedom that I have, the person that I am today, the mother that I am today, the businesswoman that I am today, like it is just so different. It's so different. It's different than a year ago, 2 years ago. Like it's just so different. But I had to do that ugly work. Still doing it, right? But I had to do the ugly work in order to get to this place. And here's another thing too, what people don't understand. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Everybody wants to be a boss babe and a this. But I'm telling you, you're not going to ever maximize in your business and be covered the way that you need to if your personal root work is not where it needs to be. It's just not. You can fake it. You can now. It's a lot of that. You can fake it. You can have $1 million worth of sales. You can do all of that. However, I'm talking about having your business covered, having purposeful business relationships and networks that can help you create generational wealth. I'm talking about that. That's not going to happen until you do the root work, because there are some people who are billionaires and millionaires who don't want to do business with Phil. And also, if you're sitting and have not done your root work, how can you be blessed with more? And you can't even do what you need to do with the hundreds and thousands. I had to learn that. I had to. I wanted more, and I'm like, God, I need you to expand. He was like, sis, you can't even. I give you something, you going to buy a pair of Louboutins. I need you to sit your tail down. I need you to figure something else out. I need you to really digest what you're doing with your money. I had to realize I had a horrible relationship with money. But that was all accountability and root work. That was all that root work that I had to do. So sometimes that meant I had to sit my tail down and learn from someone else who's better at money than me. And say that doesn't mean I failed. That just means there are things that I need to get stronger in when it comes to the financial side. And so if we take the word failure out of our mind and understand that there are things that we need to tighten up in our journey of healing, our business is going to flourish. Anything that we touch will flourish.
And you touched on some good things because financially, you're right. If you haven't healed and you're trying to run a business, it also leads to desperation. If you're operating your business in desperation, same thing as we said, you can't let everybody in your circle, also business wise. If you're a true entrepreneur, you also can't focus on being liked by absolutely everyone. And I know there's the KLT model, no like trust. Yes, we know that. But don't let that make you think you got to link up with every person that comes across your path, because they got too many people with opportunities. Those opportunities don't have a check at the end of it. So you have to be really careful in how you build relationships with people. because some people like they want a relationship with you. Yeah, they want a relationship with you business wise because they see that you have something on you. They feel it. Trust me, people
Yeah.
see when you
Yeah.
have that light, you have that glow, when you're sitting on $1 million idea. They know that. They want a
Yeah.
piece of it. But they want to see exactly how much they can get out of you for free or with the least amount possible. So again, if you're not healed, sometimes you don't have that confidence if you're not healed to say, well, you know what? No, like I'm not going to deal with this person currently, or this is just not what I want to align with. And that's a hard thing for people too when they're entrepreneurs, because if you're when you're doing that root work, and if you're not at the certain level you should be in your root work, you'll undervalue yourself. You'll have that imposter syndrome even in business and think, well, you know what? Maybe I'm not as good as this person, or maybe, they know so and so. So no, like you have to also have that healing in how you handle your entrepreneurship too. 'Cause like you said, everybody want to be a boss. And again, too, knowing your finances, manifestation when it comes to money, you have to really get yourself in like a money mindset, but you also have to get yourself in a billionaire mindset. And what I mean by that is, how am I going to take this money and do what God has given me these funds to do? You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? How do I want this to multiply? How do I want this to be consistent? How do I want to monetize this vision? And you got to really think hard and deep on that and incorporate that healing and look at, like you said, learning too. Talk to somebody. Some people don't like to even, they're too proud to just even listen or learn from somebody who has done it. And then on the flip side too, sometimes, people who have achieved certain things, they may not be very welcoming, to people. But on the flip side, if one person isn't welcoming, go find the next one. Somebody gonna talk to you.
Yeah.
Like you're
Yeah.
gonna find
Yeah.
somebody that you'll be able, to get mentorship from. But don't be too cocky or prideful to that. You're above learning from somebody, but also approach them in the right way too. Don't make it seem like you're just being another vulture that's trying to take from them. Show that you're valuable. Show, hey, this is where I'm at now and I need help on this. There's a way you can approach people too, and it also goes into our healing, learning how we address somebody, how we talk to them, and sometimes also have that confidence, but also be knowledgeable. Like there's a fine line between, just being humble, but also being confident too. So I know that's like a very complicated wheel, but your healing does flow into your entrepreneurship for sure and your professionalism. So I definitely agree with that. And also when you
It
mention
also,
about money, we'll
yes.
talk ourselves into scarcity when we like have feel less of ourselves. We can put ourselves in that scarcity mindset too. And if you have a scarcity mindset, you become desperate. And it's just not a good way just to operate in life when it comes to just learning our finances, learning our value, how to save money, or just not even feeling the need to also validate ourselves also through material things. It's such a very complicated wheel.
Yes. That that material things was my issue. It was definitely my issue. And consistency, right? I had to get to what my issue with consistency was. Because I would start something and not finish it, or I would start something, get in my head, stop it, and be like, and overthink it, and then it would cause for whatever great grand project that had momentum to stop. And the problem with that was, God was like, you want to be consistent over here, and you're not consistent with me. You're not even consistent in your foundation. So you over here doing campaigns and you doing this and you doing that. You have yet consulted with me. You done put this person a part of it. That person ain't even meant to be a part of it. Like that's why it's not consistent because you're putting the pieces of the puzzle together all wrong.
Mm.
You're not even consulting me about anything. So yeah, you're definitely not gonna be consistent because I'm gonna pull the plug on it. And so that's genuinely what was happening on and on and on until I said, and I want to say this was probably maybe even 2, 3 years ago. I was like, okay, I'm still not a good judge of character, God, and I just shut something else down because of intertwining individuals that weren't supposed to be a part of it. So let me just throw my hands up and you just tell me where to go, you know. So all of that is a part of being, a good steward, but being a good business person and being and going on your assignment because consistency is king, you know. That's how you know, that's how you can actually see your blessings come is just being consistent in the assignment. But in the same time, if you still are overthinking and feeling less about yourself or attached to the wrong individuals, and I'm tying everything we just talked about, it stops the consistency. It stops it because your ship is sinking. Somebody's either making it ship, you making it sink. Like, it's just so many things that can just stop your consistency. And that's even consistency on your healing journey. Mhm. We have so many things and so many entities around us that can stop us. We can even stop ourselves from doing the work that needs to be done because we can be our own worst enemies and then we'll add people to the pot and it don't make it no better. Right? So we have to have we have to have our foundation in order to have all of the things that we talked about flow. We have to. We have to know when to say no. We have to understand our yeses, right? We have to understand our capacity. We have to understand some are called, some are chosen. We have to understand our assignment. Some people don't understand their assignment yet, and that's okay, right? But when we start operating outside of that, that's when things go all over the place. So I've learned that all of those things tie together, whether we want to believe they do or not, you'll eventually see that they do.
And I just feel like you said, not everybody's going to understand the assignment. And that's just something you also have to accept. It just goes back to when you're working on your healing, when you're on a real, true healing journey, validation goes out the window because
Yeah.
you don't need validation from certain corners, certain circles. It means it really is meaningless. So once you have that outside of your mind, it again brings you to a different level. And it also, again, as we said, the circle gets small. Some of those business relationships, air quote, changes because it's like, okay, do I really want to be aligned with that? So a lot changes, like you said, just the way you view things, just the way you view air quote connections, or it's just different. Like it holds different values. So I also want to just talk about as well, as we talked about healing a lot. You and I, we've definitely dealt with trauma too. And that's part of just the healing, just letting go of just past things, it's just with the podcast you have, what the trauma, like just coming to terms, I would say, with trauma of our past and realizing that we don't have to wear that trauma. How has it been for you just releasing trauma in order to find personal value, personal worthiness? How has that been on your healing journey to release the trauma and move past the trauma? Because again, it's something that doesn't happen overnight. And it's something that's always a work in progress. It's something that I feel like trauma survivors, it's like a reset thing, or people who are consistent with going to the gym. Like it's like you have to still exercise on a regular basis to release it. So how has that process been for you?
Will tell you this, and I've been talking to a lot of people about it in the past. So cancer, really, when I got diagnosed with cancer August 6th of 2020, I didn't know that that journey was going to take me on such a crazy, crazy ride. Um, being in the hospital, being burned to the second degree, losing 126 pounds, just like everything that could go wrong or the side effects that could go wrong happened to me, right? And in that hospital room, because I was in being treated during COVID, I couldn't have any visitors. I was isolated due to my compromised immune system with AIDS. So I was literally by myself day in, day out, day in, day out. And in that time, I think I was just in tears every day from the pain. But B, I so many traumas were coming to me from the past on top of me being in the hospital that it was crazy. It it was almost like that time that I had to sit down in the hospital, and then when they sent me home for palliative care, because after palliative care is hospice, so it was my last chance with palliative care at home in the hospital bed. I literally was like at night talking to God, like, okay, so why is this bothering me? And I'm in 2020. Why is something from 2003 pissing me off? Like, it was crazy how it was coming, and it was such a crazy spiritual journey that uh I wanted to do treatment in California. Ended up doing treatment in Wisconsin because the whole country was on a lockdown, and Wisconsin was no longer approving my medical care. And I had this horrible relationship with Texas, with Houston. I never wanted to be in Houston. Houston irritated me. And it was crazy because I was forced to do the rest of my cancer treatment here in Houston, at MD Anderson. I couldn't walk. I was on a walker, couldn't move. And it was crazy some of the trauma that had me in a dark place in Houston. I couldn't move, but here's how that healing works. It had to put me back in a place that was a part of my trauma in order for me to heal so I could face it. And I ended up getting a therapist, and this was in 2021. I ended up getting a therapist, and she walked me through everything. She was dissecting daddy issues, mommy issues, pattern issues. She was just breaking it down, and I was like, I didn't realize I had that much trauma. I did not. And it was because all of the vanity had been broken down. I couldn't dress it up with hair. I couldn't dress it up with makeup. I couldn't dress it up with my figure and wearing the best clothes. I couldn't dress it up because my body was deteriorated at that point. So I literally had to face everything head on, looking ugly, feeling sick, in a place that pissed me off whenever I would fly into town. So it was like I had to go into the trenches and really get to my healing. And so that for me showed me that trauma can be so built up over time that because we just put it in the back of our mind, we will learn how to operate in dysfunction in the trauma. And then we're not even talking about the generational trauma. We ain't even talking about that. We're just talking about the trauma from just living the years that you've, you know, So it was really an eye-opening experience navigating that trauma. And I will tell people, I really just dealt with the bulk of my trauma within the last 4.5 years. And I literally am a new person just from before cancer. And it was literally because I was forced to deal with my trauma. And two, because I'm a mother now, you know. I didn't want to operate and raise my daughter out of a place of trauma because I had not done my work. So now I'm spewing all of my trauma onto her. That's not fair to her. So that's really kind of what made me say, okay, let's go back to the drawing board and fix this. Let's go back to the drawing board and do that. Why does this look like this? Why am I speaking like that? Why does this bother me? Why does landing in Houston to come and visit my mother and my grandmother and my family bother me? What did the city do to you? I had to break all of that caution tape, red tape. I had to in order for me to get to the place to where I am now at a place of peace that is priceless.
Wow. Peace is priceless. And wow, that's just something else. And I like how you mentioned when you're forced to deal with your trauma, it doesn't feel good. But as you said, like you're a different person now. And that's the thing that just makes it all worthwhile, in spite of the things that we have to lose to become something new. It's like a transformation. It's just necessary, and it hurts. It hurts to also go through your past, and especially things we've gone through as children in trauma or adolescence, or even our early part of womanhood too, when we didn't know any better and we experienced trauma in those days, or hell, even after early womanhood, when you still are holding
Yeah.
on to certain baggage. So you still are looking through a lens of dysfunction. That's the language that you speak, it's the actions that you go through life. It when you just look through it, and it's like, oh man, when you get to that breaking point, and it's like, wow, it is priceless, the peace that comes with it. But there is a morning that comes. I think that morning doesn't go away sometimes, because you start to think sometimes, damn, I wish I had a known those things back then. If only. Or it's just a morning I feel that comes along with it, but the peace that you gain from just breaking down these barriers, it is priceless. But that pain, that trauma will be tied to a city or a state,
Yeah.
or just certain activities where it's like, man,
Crazy.
it's hard for me to do this. I can't be in these spaces or places, like sometimes people don't understand that too, but your trauma definitely will live in like a city or a state or something, or just even in like certain family members, it's hard to like be around just certain functions
Yeah.
that in the past, it was all good. But now it's like, oh, you
Yeah.
know, then
Yeah.
you want to get to the root of why. And that's when it's like, oh gosh, that's when the work comes in.
And I had no choice. I had no choice but to deal with mine. I had to deal with, trauma that I was from where I'm from, Milwaukee. In the house that I grew up in. I was battling cancer in that same house, in the same exact spot that my grandfather passed away from cancer in. So it was just so much going on, and I felt like I was just fighting and elbowing every which way. And I was just like, okay, so I have to deal with this now. I have to go to Houston and face this stuff head on. And to the point where now when I flew in this time to visit, it was a different level of peace I had this time when I came. Because normally I'm like, yeah, I got to run in and I got to run out. And at the bottom line is it's not the city. It's the trauma that you've attached to it, that you have to navigate, and you have to break down, and you have to figure out what that root is, and you have to make peace with whatever those things are. Whatever that is, whoever that is, you got to make peace with that so you can move forward.
You're right. Making peace with. And I like how you mentioned that it's not the city, but it's the trauma that's in that city, or it's the trauma that's in that house, or it's just a trauma from a past memory that's associated with that thing, that space, place, or person. It's the trauma. And it's like you got to get in a boxing match with that trauma to move past it, because you deserve to move past it, is the thing, and I feel like too sometimes trauma makes things easy. Like when you haven't faced it, it's easy to be a victim. It's easy to be, okay, well, I'm gonna blame this behavior on that trauma. Well, this happened to me a year, 10 or 20 years ago. So this is going to excuse why I do these things, or I could just use that trauma as an excuse to get by. So just not wanting to deal with your trauma, it does make stuff easy, because it's like, okay, you don't have to do the healing work. You could save that coin and not get a therapist, because it's like, you know what, I'm gonna just sit in this trauma. Like
Yeah,
I'll just use this trauma as a
I just
reason
want
to
to be
not go
comfortable
visit.
in it. Yep. Yeah, but I've noticed those that do, and I'm not, talking about anyone specifically, but it'll be family members who will equate I'm over this or I'm healed from something due to the accolades that they have. So I have these degrees, I drive this car, I have this house, so I'm good. But when you sit and you have a conversation with them, and you can see just by how they treat people that they have healing to do. Just in the conversations that they have. You can't even have a conversation without being snappy, stank, judgy. When you really are in a place of healing, you don't speak from a place of judgment. You don't speak from a place of conflict because you're just on a different level of peace. You just are, So I had to understand that my healing is not tied to things, you know, because if I had nothing, I would still have this level of peace, and I would still think the utmost of myself, like I always have, but now I think the utmost of myself in the most highest of healing way ever. That's the difference. And it is not tied to things because I can't take things with me. Can't even take the money with me. So I have to make sure that I'm okay with self and what I stand for and how I treat people and how I operate outside of all that other stuff. Mm.
But you know what? You can't take these things with you, but we can leave this earth by leaving that peace through our children, through
Yeah,
our
yeah,
relationships. That's how you break that generational curse where you can leave the peace that you gain when you can leave it through your legacy. And that's
yes,
the part
yes,
that's like, oh my God, like it's worth everything that you've gone through because you can leave peace through your legacy. You can leave
yes,
your authenticity through that legacy. You can leave all the rewards that you've gotten through the work of healing through your legacy once we're gone. And that's one thing that's like, it's the ultimate reward.
it
But
is.
this has been, again, a beautiful reconnection, just an awakening for people that are going to tune in and listen or watch, just to let them know, like, healing is ugly, like we said, but it is worth it. You
Yes,
deserve this. So I
yes,
do want to leave this to you before we go, to just leave us with something, whether it's an affirmation or I do these calls now. We've been doing this for about 2 months called Pink Rain. We do these empowerment calls. And one of the best parts of the call is we'll use an action word. Everyone goes around, they'll say an action word and say how to apply that action word to the self love in their lives. So even if I would like to send that to you. If you want to just pick an action word, and that action word could be how you're winning or how you're rising, anything, just an action word that you would think of through this journey of healing to give to this audience and how they can apply it in their lives, because a lot of people just don't realize you deserve that peace. And I know it's not easy. I know it's not. And I don't even want to make this seem like it's so easy to do or like make it a lighthearted thing again, because as we said, healing is work. So if you want to just leave the audience with just an action word and how they can apply it to just get that peace with healing.
absolutely. My action word is going to be off the top, surrender. You have to surrender to your reality. You have to surrender to what is. You have to surrender to your assignment. You have to surrender to even your trauma, because even when you go to God and say, God, I want you to increase, I want you to this, I want you to, and not that he's Santa Claus, right? But when you go to him and you're saying that you're thankful for all these things, and you're going to him, kind of with, hey, lead me, guide me, you got to surrender because you have to take your hands off of it. You have to do the same thing in the physical. So a lot of things you got to take your hands off of so it can do its thing, you know? And we get into anxiety, we get into depression, we get into all these other things because our the right we feel to control everything. And once you learn to sit back and surrender, it you'll be surprised the doors that open up, and you'll be surprised the you that opens up when it's time to receive all those blessings, girl.
it. I love that. Surrender. Just, oh my God, surrender and just let God do the work. I love that. Surrender. Again, this has been a beautiful conversation, an amazing connection. Thank you again just for always supporting this platform, supporting me. Like it means a lot to me. Like you're like what I call like one of the OGs. Like you've been here from the beginning. So I truly, it means a lot to me. And again, I know personally I have been on this isolation journey. It's just for my
Me too.
mental peace.
Me too.
But I know I can reach out to you at any time though. And I don't take that lightly. I truly, truly appreciate you, everything you do, just who you are. And I truly appreciate you. Before we do end everything though, please tell everybody how they can follow you, how they can be a part of this journey, because you just, like I said, you just have, you put yourself out there. And I know, like we discussed, like, it's a slippery slope because when you're giving yourself, you got to protect yourself too. But from what you do share though, it can change lives. It inspires people, and I just admire everything that you do. So please let everybody know how they can follow you on social media, how they can connect with you.
Yes, please. At I am Kecia J. It's on everything, whether that's TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. But you can also follow the I am Kecia J Foundation, which is launching in two countries, launching here in Atlanta. Oh, well, not here, but in the States in Atlanta, Georgia, June 27th, and in Accra, Ghana, World AIDS Day, December 1st this year. We decide to switch it to World AIDS Day to make it a bigger and more grand event because they really need our attention over in Africa. So follow me in all those platforms and you'll get to know everything that's going on with me.
I love it. Thank you again for just being who you are. And I hope that for anyone that listens or watches this episode, that it does bless you. And whoever tunes in right now, I want to just tell you right now, I congratulate you because if you listen to this, I know that you're on the timeline of healing. You may not be as far as you want to be, are you whatever part of that timeline of healing that you are on, I still want to commend whoever tunes in, whoever listens. This is for you. I want to commend you because I know it's not easy. I know it's not easy. The two women that you just listened to, it took time to even discuss what we discussed today, and we're still learning and we're still working and we're still growing. So I commend you, and you got this. You deserve that peace that comes with healing. Even when it hurts, you deserve the peace. Even when you lose people, what you're going to gain is so much bigger. So again, you deserve everything that your heart desires, but you deserve that peace from healing. So thank you, thank you, thank you for tuning into this episode. You can catch this episode and more, www.goqueen.com. Make sure again you be safe, and please, please, please go love yourself as much as possible. You deserve it. Thank you again for tuning into the Q Chat. And thank you again, Miss Kecia J. You guys are all phenomenal. And again, this conversation was for you. So, guys, please take care.
She's a queen.